Hello and welcome to Tech Deals. 6 games benchmarked featuring Call of Duty Modern Warfare and 5 others on this $1,000 gaming laptop computer, the Acer Predator Helios 300, featuring the new GTX 1660 Ti Touring 6GB graphics card, a 1080p 144Hz IPS 3 millisecond response time display, and Intel's 9th generation i7 9750H 45 watt 6-core 12-thread CPU. This thing's a beast. Now, this laptop is being reviewed in a separate video. Details on all the configuration options, upgradability options, ports, temperature testing, noise testing, that sort of thing. That's all going to be another video. I will say, however, that for $1,000, this thing's pretty impressive. It's not perfect. There are compromises at the $1,000 level, but if that's your budget, if you came to me right now and said, Tech, I've got $1,000 to spend, I want a computer that I can play games on and multitask on and create content on, this is it. This is the one I would send you to. So if that's your budget and this is what you want to do, you have definitely come to the right place. I'm going to show you some extended footage of Call of Duty Modern Warfare playing on this, and then I'm going to show you 5 other games, shorter footage along with benchmark charts in this video so you can get an idea of what to expect. And then we're going to take a look at a bunch of benchmark charts and we'll see what it looks like there. Linked in the video description below, you will find the link to Amazon where I bought this laptop, and so should you if you want the best value in a $1,000 gaming laptop today. This was not a product sample from Acer. We did buy this with our own money because I genuinely do believe it's the best value you can buy at this price point. You can buy faster laptops, you can buy cheaper laptops, but at this price point, this is the one to buy. The other thing you'll find down in the video description below is the link to today's sponsor, Dashlane. Are you still using 12345 as your password everywhere?
What's the combination?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yes.
That's amazing. I've got the same combination on my luggage.
Stop that, it's the 21st century. Passwords are a pain because you got to remember unique, complicated passwords to every site you log into. And if you're like me, you have about 473 different passwords to remember. It is not physically possible to remember complex, unique passwords to even 5 sites, much less 400 and whatever. The point is, you need to use a service like Dashlane. Instead of using easy-to-guess passwords like Happy Friday 2020, which is extremely easy for a dictionary search to find, that would take this computer like 5 seconds to find, you need to be using things like capital Z, lowercase j, 42, ampersand, pound sign, uppercase T, lowercase n, etc., etc. 16 to 64 characters long. That's not possible for our brains to remember. Enter Dashlane. Dashlane is free to download and free to use forever on one device with a free trial of the 30-day premium service as well. No credit card required to sign up. But you can download it on your laptop device. You can download it on iOS or Android. It will import your existing passwords, and it doesn't just change them. It doesn't just generate auto-complex passwords. It will also show you which sites all use the same password. It'll also tell you which sites have had data breaches and go, hey, these 27 different sites have all recently suffered data breaches and you're on them. You need to go change your passwords. That is a wonderful service that they offer. And if you're not using some type of password manager software, then frankly, can I has your stuff? Because sooner or later, your passwords will be breached, your passwords will be guessed, and since you use the same password more than once, you need Dashlane. Download it using the link in the video description below, free for life on one device. It supports the channel by using that link, and you do get a discount when you actually ultimately sign up for premium, which if you want it on all your devices, I think you should. And with that out of the way, let's get to the benchmarks. And I'll have a little bit more to talk about on this device when we get to the end of them. Our first game that we're benchmarking today is our highlight game, Call of Duty Modern Warfare. This is a co-op game. I've previously tested this in several videos in Ground War, But ground war can be an interesting, challenging place to benchmark, and I thought, I'll try something different. Because this is not a comparison video, I'm not attempting to show this versus another computer or another configuration. It's simply one point of performance, so it's going to be different than ground war, but at least it gives you a chance to see some real combat with hopefully not too much crap play on my part. Now, if you look at the real-time performance numbers in the upper left-hand corner of the screen, you'll notice a couple of things. First of all, I would like to call attention to the fact that this CPU, for the most part, maintains 4 gigahertz. Not all the time, but most of the time. I will also call your attention to the fact that it runs very hot. It is currently at 88 degrees Celsius. There's 87, 88, 90. This machine is too hot when gaming to put on your lap without having some kind of laptop table or hard surface. It would burn your lap to try to play with this in gaming. Now, it's not remotely this hot when you are just in Windows, browsing the web, watching YouTube videos, etc. But when gaming, it needs some sort of hard surface to sit on. It's not quiet either, but that's a topic for the main review, not for this. The graphics chip is also quite toasty and warm, but you'll see it's boosting very nicely. 1700 megahertz on a mobile chip is really good, all things considered. Fun food for thought, we're currently using a little over 12 gigabytes of system RAM, and I will remind you all once again that these benchmarks are always done in a completely clean test configuration. Nothing is running on this machine. It's as clean can be. I disabled or turned off or uninstalled the stuff that came with the laptop, which really wasn't that much. It's just a few things. But I did uninstall or disable or delete those or simply turn them off. And so this is running about as clean as it's going to get. And we're using most of that 16 gigs of RAM. Unfortunately, the computer comes with 2 8GB sticks installed in the only 2 available memory slots, so if you want to upgrade this to 32 gigabytes, you're going to have to replace the existing 16 gigs, which kind of sucks, but it's a laptop, so what can you expect? Plenty of storage, but again, that's a topic for the review, so we won't get into that here. The actual usage of the CPU is at about 50%, so we're using our 6 cores, but we're not using much in the way of hyper-threading. It's effectively using the real cores of the CPU. And if you're playing on a 4-core CPU, such as the previous generation from 2017, which had a 4-core 8-thread, ooh, that's just savage. It makes me look good, doesn't it? But that was more luck than anything else. So if you're playing this on an older machine, will it still play? Yes. With 4 cores and 8 threads, the extra threads will mask it. It will work. The usage will be a bit higher. The frame rates will be a bit lower. The frame pacing won't be quite... Oh, that kind of caught me by surprise. Thank goodness for comfortable game mechanics where it just doesn't nuke you. Where did all these guys come from? This, by the way, for those of you curious, is the very first co-op game I ever played in benchmarking. I played one before this as a test, which was a nighttime mission, and that didn't go very well. This is my first time I've actually benchmarked it. I did one just to sort of try it out and see what it was like. Man, I thought the co-op would be a bit easier than this. I gotta say, this was pretty brutal. We're fast forwarding here because I spent some time running up and down the stairs, and when you see the average performance numbers here, I want you to keep in mind that there was a couple of minutes of that, so that kind of lifted the average just a bit, but the 1% low is actually not that bad, all things considered. I do want to remind you that this is a $1,000 laptop, and it comes with a screen and a keyboard and Windows. It's not a $1,000 build that you have to add everything to and have to add a monitor to. And the fact that it comes with a 1080p 144Hz IPS display that is really nice, actually. I've seen better, but not on $1,000 laptops. I've seen better on $2,000 laptops. I've seen better on really expensive premium machines. But on $1,000 laptops, this was, in fact, very nice. You can see us running around outside. The whole point of showing you all this footage is to give you a chance to see live gameplay with the real-time performance numbers to get some kind of idea what's going on. Yeah, this is going to end poorly, as you can see here. It's meant to show you more than a chart, which I think is far more useful in terms of real-world performance. 136 frames per second average, 76 1% low, and 27.1% low. This is very, very playable on this machine. With the high refresh rate monitor and the fact that it can handle the various dips in performance very smoothly without screen tearing, you've got a very nice machine for this sort of gameplay. You can buy better, of course. You spend $2,000, you'll get a faster, nicer laptop, but you'll also have spent twice the money. This was very smooth and very, very nice. World of Warships. I will not show you a ton of this because it performs fine and wonderful in all respects on this machine. We are at 1080p high detail, which really, frankly, you could turn it to ultra. Take a look at the graphics chip. The graphics chip's only running at 50%. We are totally not using the graphics card here. We're using the CPU. You will notice the graphics chip is running cooler because it's not having to use all of its performance. Not tremendously cooler, but it is a bit cooler. The CPU, however, still hot as a pancake. Those fans are turning, and it isn't quiet, but at least the performance is great. Now, World of Warships has an internal frame rate limiter, but you can disable it in the engine config sys file, which is why we're over 75 frames per second. And the performance is great. For a game like this, this is exceedingly spectacular performance. You really don't need a $1,000 laptop to play games like this, but it sure is nice, and it sure performs really, really well. 141 frames per second average, 72.1% low, 33.1% low. For a game like this, that is awesome performance. Assassin's Creed Odyssey, everybody's favorite highly optimized game from Ubisoft that provides wonderful performance on okay, I can't even finish that sentence with a straight face. For those of you who are new here, this game is pretty savage when it comes to computer resources. We are in the game's built-in benchmark, and we are using most of the CPU. Now, it's fluctuating here, but it's hitting into the 70% range there, and you'll see it go higher, especially in the actual gameplay, depending upon where you're at. This thing really will use an 8-core CPU, but of course, Intel doesn't currently sell an 8-core CPU on laptops yet. But they are coming. In fact, we recently covered that in one of our live streams. They are going to be producing an 8-core, 16-thread, 14-nanometer, 45-watt CPU, which is just, I don't know how they're going to do it, considering the power draw and clock speed here, but that's what they claim. The performance isn't bad, but it is not what I would call spectacular. But, well, you know, it's Assassin's Creed Odyssey. What do you expect? 68, 49, and 37 on the average 1% low and 0.1% low, respectively. It is a single-player offline game. If you just want to play this, it will certainly run at about 60 frames per second most of the time. Remember that you can tweak graphic settings. You can turn off the clouds, you can turn the shadows to low. You can make a few adjustments that will uplift that 1% low and get you 60 frames per second most of the time. F1 2018. Now this is how you make a game that is optimized. Why can't all game companies realize that designing a good game engine and creating a good game, yes, I know it's a racing game, not an open world game, and obviously it's different, but look at it. It's gorgeous. Look at the cockpit, the cars, the tires, the track, the crowds on the side, the trees. We're at 150 to 170 frames per second, 1080p high detail. Look at the shadows of the trees as we cross the track. This is how you do it, folks. This is how you make games that don't have absolute soul-crushing performance on mid-range hardware. And yes, I'm calling a $1,000 laptop mid-range hardware. That is mid-range. $500 laptops are extremely basic with extremely basic features with worse screens and worse storage and worse RAM and worse GPU if they even have a dedicated GPU. This is decidedly mid-range. A GTX 1660 Ti is very nice for this price point. The CPU is great. And the performance here, look at it. It's amazing. If you want to play racing games, if you want to play games that aren't optimized the Ubisoft way, well, you've come to the right place. 171 frames per second average, 97 on the 1% low, 51 on the 0.1% low. No issues whatsoever. I know F1 2019 is out, but it's basically the same. It'll be a little bit lower, but not horrifically so. Very good performance. Far Cry New Dawn, the full-price DLC to Far Cry 5, which I'm contractually obligated to say on all future benchmarks of this game, just FYI. Now, I just got done ripping Ubisoft a new one for their awful optimization. This one isn't as bad, and ironically, it is newer than Assassin's Creed Odyssey, but obviously different people, developers, etc. This is a beautiful game, and it does perform better. As you can see, we're inside at the moment. There's 100 frames per second. It's not going to hold 100 frames per second, but at 1080p high detail, I am pleased to say that this game will be over 60 frames per second a vast majority of the time, which means that in the offline story mode, open world gameplay that is Far Cry New Dawn, you will be able to go out and enjoy the game at 60 plus frames per second without a problem. It's not 144, but this isn't the kind of game that needs 144. That's for Fortnite and Overwatch and Rainbow Six Siege. For games like this, this is a much, much better experience than Assassin's Creed Odyssey is. 92 frames per second average, 64 1% low, 56.1% low. Now, it's a built-in benchmark. In the real world in the game, I can tell you that 1% low number will dip lower. Turn shadows to low. Turn a few settings to medium, and boom, you'll get 60 plus frames per second, even in the open world, 97, 98% of the time. It'll be a great overall experience. Speaking of well-optimized games, Strange Brigade using the Vulkan drivers rather than DirectX 12. This is another good example of a well-programmed and well-optimized game. Look at the world detail just here in the built-in benchmark. Look at that's gorgeous. The waterfall, the trees. Certainly, obviously, a lot of very clever programming techniques and engine techniques are used to make it look this pretty while still providing 120 to 150 frames per second. But who cares what techniques they use if they make it this pretty? This is how it's done. And I'm gonna not pull any punches in the future. I've perhaps given Assassin's Creed Odyssey and some other games a little bit too much leeway when it comes to poor programming. Several of you have commented that in the comment section of previous videos saying, man, what are you talking about? Assassin's Creed Odyssey is horribly optimized. You can't judge a graphics card or a CPU based on that. Well, that's a fair point and a fair point of criticism, because this thing does 123 frames per second average, 76 1% low, 64.1% low, and compared to the Assassin's Creed Odyssey numbers, that's wonderful. So if you want to play games, sometimes game selection is more important than game hardware, because you can always buy more powerful hardware. And obviously, if you have a $2,000+ budget to get an RTX 2080 Max-Q chip with the super high-end CPU and all that fancy stuff, I mean, it's lovely, but you're spending double the money to get a few more frames per second. Or play games that are better optimized, like this one.
Thank you all so much for watching through those benchmarks. 2 gold stars to all of you who watched the entire thing without fast forwarding. It's greatly appreciated. This machine, as I said, is an amazing value for the money. It's not perfect. Its 2 biggest flaws are heat and noise. When it is running at full bore in the benchmarks that you just saw, it is not what I would call quiet. Headphones are required as far as I'm concerned. Now, I'm overly sensitive to noise. For example, I replace most of the fans in my personal machines with Be Quiets or Noctuas because they're better than the cheap stuff that most cases come with. But I don't like noise, and this is not silent. On the other hand, it has essentially a desktop GTX 1660 Ti and a 6-core, 12-thread i7 at 4 gigahertz in a tiny, tiny package, so heat and noise are definitely an issue. As far as heat goes, you saw the temperatures in the benchmarks. It's not a cool running machine. When it's sitting here playing a YouTube video, and this is actually a 7-hour YouTube video loop that it's playing at the moment, it's cool and quiet. You could put this on your lap all day long, playing video, editing Word documents, checking your email, checking Facebook, doing schoolwork, doing business work. This is fine. This is absolutely cool to the touch. No issues whatsoever. Load up Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and you are not putting this on your lap. You need a real hard surface to get ventilation underneath it. It's got 2 vents in the back, and the heat blows out the back, and it's really hot on the bottom. I said this wasn't going to be a review, and it's not, but the big issues are temperature and noise, and I think a lot of people are going to ask about them, so I just want to address them right here in the benchmark video for those of you who are curious. There are laptops you can buy that have less of an issue with that, but they are thicker and they are more expensive, and if you have $2,000 for a laptop, then rock on, go buy one of those, but that is not at this price point. It's amazing performance for the money. The fact that it's got all this stuff in it, the fact that it's got 2 additional drive bays to add drives in it, the fact that it comes with 144 hertz, 3 millisecond IPS display, it's a nice machine.
A desktop is a better value for the money in terms of performance, temperature, heat. That sort of thing is going to be better in a desktop. For $1,000, you can buy a very nice desktop with a monitor, and well, really you'd have to spend like $800 on a desktop because $200 on a monitor and keyboard and mouse and all that, but you'd have a nicer overall machine that you can upgrade. But it doesn't weigh 4.5 pounds, it doesn't work on an airplane, and it isn't as portable and light as this truly is. If you have a need for a laptop and you also want it to be a gaming machine, this should be on your short list. I am doing 2 other videos like this. I originally was going to put it all into one video, but the truth of the matter is it would be a very long video, and the time and energy I spent doing benchmarks on this requires that we divide this up into a 3-part series, not counting the full review. I'll do some close-up shots and talk about it in more detail in that. There were 6 games in this video. I have tested 18 total, 6 of which with live gameplay, 2 of which you saw today. I will try and space them out, but if you would like to see all of the games benchmarked now, well, that is what Floatplane is for down in the video description below. If you'd like to support the channel for $5 per month, you get access to all of our videos ad-free and early, and I will have all 3 of these videos up on Floatplane very shortly so you can see all of the tests before they publish to YouTube if you are interested. You can also see the benchmark charts in image format. All 18 of these benchmark charts have already been posted to Patreon. In fact, they've been on Patreon from when I'm filming this for several days now, and patrons get early access to the charts in image format if you'd like to see them that way. I will do the review after I post all 3 game performance videos, with the idea being that I think the gaming performance is what most people want to see, so that'll be the 4th and probably final video of this series coming up. I thought about doing an upgrade video showing how to add storage, which I did in this, but it is so easy, I don't think it's necessary. Let me know in the comment section below if you want to see that. Like this video if you like it, share it with your friends if you love it. Remember to subscribe to my channel with that big, huge red button directly below. Hit the bell notification icon next to it if you'd like to actually be notified when the videos come out. Hit the join button next to it if you'd like to support the channel directly, which comes with a variety of benefits on itself. We have a $2 support option down there right here on YouTube now. If you'd like to directly support the channel and get access to the private chat channels on Discord, it certainly is greatly appreciated. That benefit comes with the other options, Patreon, Floatplane as well, so you don't have to do both. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.